Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. My running back rankings, my top 24 running backs for week 1 for your fantasy football league. So your start sit questions, just refer to these rankings. These are the running backs in order 1 through 24, your RB1s and RB2s that I think you should be playing for this week. So let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League is up again for this season. Week 1's is 4,000 entrants, $10 entry fee, 3 max, and as always, absolutely no rake. There is a link right down below. There's one in the description, and there's one in the pinned comment. So there's 2 links. Smizzle.tv/links will take you to the link tree. You can get in to anywhere you want, including the Listener League. You can join our Discord, follow me on Twitch. You can take part in the No Kid Hungry fundraiser. You can do anything you want. All of the links are here. Best Buys is already out on ESPN, and you can follow all of my different YouTube channels here as well. The link tree is your easiest way to get into the Smiz Gang Listener League. It is not a lobby league. You cannot get there by navigating through DraftKings. You have to use my link, and the easiest way is smizzle.tv/links. I'm going to go pretty quickly through the top 5 because you kind of should know who they are, and there's really no secret. These guys are the absolute best. They are the creme de la creme of running backs, not just for week 1, but overall, and it's close to ADP, even though it's not 100% on ADP. My number 1 running back is the 1.01 on ADP in drafts. Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. They are favored by 8.5 points. All signs pointing to yes for JT here in week 1. He completely has torn the Houston Texans to shreds the last 4 times that they have played each other, including like running for about 7,000 yards and 42 touchdowns in the 2 games that they played against them last season. Don't fact check that. It's close to what the totals are, but just go with it. Christian McCaffrey, using PPR scoring, is always going to be a monster. In fact, the last 3 opening weekends, he's basically averaged like 135 to 160 yards per game with 8 targets and 20 plus carries. He doesn't need to get into the end zone to score a touchdown. His floor is so drastically high, but when you add the touchdowns, he's got one of the best ceilings in fantasy football. A clear number 2 for me this week. Number 3 might surprise you. A 5-box running back, as talked about on the 5-box running back video on the main channel, is Derrick Henry, the big dog. Going up against the Giants defense, Tennessee is at home. They are favored. He projects to get a ton of volume in this game, has plenty of touchdown upside to go along with him as well. Behind him, Austin Eckler in one of the 3 top projected possible shootouts on the day, being one of the late games. They play Las Vegas. Also a 5-box running back, plays at home, 20 plus touches, usage in the passing game, tons of inside the 5 carries, at home and favored. And behind him is Dalvin Cook at home against Green Bay. Now, Green Bay's defense is tough, but based on the projections that I have with his ceiling and where his mean is, I have him at 5. I'm pretty okay with him there. Obviously, if you drafted him with like the 7th overall pick, you're not sitting Dalvin Cook in week 1, like for any reason. There's no way you have 2 of the 4 running backs ranked ahead of him. So you're going to play him. You're going to start your studs. You're going to do everything that you have to do to get into that spot. Now let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's go 6 through 12, and then I got to hit 13 through the rest for you. So we'll start with Alvin Kamara at number 6. Now this game does look like it could be a little bit slow paced. New Orleans is favored. They play at Atlanta. Obviously a dome game is going to be a perfect weather spot for him. And I like Kamara more on turf than I like him outside on grass anyway. But Atlanta's got a couple of pretty good cornerbacks. And if they have to dump off enough times to him, we don't need like 25 carries from Alvin Kamara. In fact, it's preferred that he doesn't get that. I'd rather him get like 12 to 15 carries, get a couple of inside the 5 touches so that he can get himself into the end zone and get that all-important touchdown. But we really want 6+ targets from him, and that does appear like it could be in the mix for week 1. Speaking of being in the mix for week 1, Joe Mixon is my next man up. Number 7 on my list. You see what I did there? I can't stop myself from the dad jokes. They're going to happen, guys. You got to deal with it. It's part of the program. Mixon, another 5-box running back. He's going to get a ton of looks. They completely demolished Pittsburgh, did the Bengals last season in their 2 meetings, beating them 21-10, then 41-10. In that second meeting, Mixon went absolutely bonkers with 28 carries, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, also got 4 targets in that game, 35.3 fantasy points in that game alone. The beefed up offensive line for Cincinnati is clearly going to help out Joe Burrow with staying vertical instead of being horizontal as soon as he throws the ball like he was last year. But even with him being horizontal all the time, they were able to just, waltz their way into the Super Bowl. If they play from ahead more often this season, they're going to be in situations where they're going to run the ball more often this season. They're going to be playing from ahead more often this season, which just are all signs that are going to point to Joe Burrow being even more consistent this year than he was last year when he averaged 18.2 fantasy points per game. I like Mixon in this spot. Obviously, you're starting him. If you draft him, there's no two ways between it. So here we are once again with Joe Mixon in a smash spot, and just hope that he can cash in for you if you're starting him this week. Aaron Jones comes in at number 8 for me. I'm not projecting that he's going to get 70+% of the snaps and touches at running back for Green Bay. However, he is going to get a lot of usage in the passing game, especially considering that right now, we don't know what the Green Bay wide receiver situation looks like, or let's extend that and say the pass catcher situation looks like for week 1, considering that Alan Lazard is on not practicing and on the injured list right now with a lower body problem, and Robert Tunyon's still not recovered from his offseason ACL surgery. So there might be even more passes that are going to come Aaron Jones's way. He was already expected to take a much larger role in the passing game with the vacated targets from Devontae Adams and having to take on a bigger role in the passing game in general, but he may have to take on an even greater role in the passing game in week 1 of 2022 just because of everything else that might be hurt. They're possibly going to have to rely on a rookie like Dobbs on the outside, and then Sammy Watkins. Well, I mean, look, Sammy Watkins, it's week 1, so Sammy Watkins should have 3 touchdowns, right? That's kind of how things work with Sammy Watkins. But Aaron Jones, very solid play here in week 1. My number 9, Leonard Fournette, playing on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. Leonard Fournette has not gotten the credit that he deserves for being a pass catcher until last season when he was like 3rd in the league in terms of running back catches. If you're playing in half PPR, you have plenty of opportunity at touchdowns. Buccaneers do project to be playing from ahead in this game, but the amount of volume that he got in the passing game. Now, there's going to be some people say, well, what about the rookie Rashad White? It's like, I understand, like you say, they brought in a guy, but Tom Brady has a circle of trust. And if you do not fit into that circle of trust, you do not get on the field. Just ask Ronald Jones Jr. He was not allowed on the field by Tom Brady, like, at all. He's get him off the field, give me Lenny, and Lenny was on the field, and that's what matters. And he trusts him in the passing game. And while White does project as a really good pass catching back and may fill in from time to time, Lenny's still going to get 70-75% of the looks. He's going to get all the inside the 5 touches and is another great play this week. I have Najee Harris directly behind him. These next 2 spots, 10 and 11, like, I can't rank these guys lower for this week, but I'm a little bit nervous with having them there. Harris, 1, is in a spot where obviously I like Mixon. You're not sitting Harris is the problem in fantasy. So, like, I play mostly best ball. I'm not plagued with these start-sit questions except for in like the Scott Fish Bowl. So where I do have to make these start-sit decisions. But for my best ball leagues, I don't care. I don't have to pick these transactions. I would not want to have Harris as my number 1 running back, as my RB1. He sits at number 10 for this week because the volume is undeniable. Now, it's going to come down from where it was last year because it can't go any further up from where it was last year. But like, even if it comes down to like 320 or 350 on the year, the volume's great. The offensive line, however, is not great. Also, they don't project to play from ahead. That might not affect Harris because of how heavy he gets used in the passing game, especially in the absence of Deontay Johnson. I'm assuming he's going to be out with this shoulder injury for at least a week, maybe 2, which may elevate his target floor, at least his target market share. Pickens steps up a little bit in role. Claypool steps up a little bit in role. Maybe Freiermuth will get 5 or 6 targets instead of his usual 3 or 4. But Harris could see like 6, 7, 8, 9 targets, which boosts his value, but I'm not sure how much touchdown upside there is here against Cincinnati. Number 11 is DeAndre Swift. Also nervous about this one, but was not previously. It has been reported this morning that the Detroit Lions are going to possibly be playing without 3 of their starting 5 offensive linemen who are struggling with injury issues right now in the lead up to week 1. Monitor that situation. Hopefully it's nothing structural. Hopefully all of them are fine. We want to see this. I mean, I want to see this Lions team do well. We watched them on Hard Knocks. I think that they played really hard last year. This is a team that I am personally rooting for this season, because I think that they can turn the corner this year. I don't mean turn the corner by like being a Super Bowl contender, but like at least be in the mix for the playoffs. They lost so many close games last year that they need some things to go their way. Hopefully that offensive line is clean, because right now that's a problem. But DeAndre Swift, with the pass game usage that he will always have, puts him in a great spot to pay off. So he's a high floor, high ceiling guy. He's got big splash playability and should get more carries inside the 5 this year. But those targets are so valuable, 2.3 times as many expected fantasy points for a target than a rush. So guys like Harris and Swift, even though they're the 10 and 11 players on this list, they're buoyed because of that floor they have, because of their usage in the passing game. Number 12, rounding out my RB1s on the week, is Saquon Barkley. Now, if you've been watching my content all offseason, you know how high I am on Saquon Barkley coming into this year. Based on this situation in week 1, he gets dialed down a little bit. Most weeks, he's probably going to be the 6, 7, or 8 running back for me. I would assume, as long as it's not a situation where it's a pace down game like it's going to be against Tennessee and in Tennessee and underdogs. Now, again, this is another running back who's going to be a high volume pass game guy. So it will buoy his floor a little bit. He's the only show in town, so that's where all the inside the 5 carries are going to go. And beyond that, he's going to have to show flashes of the old Saquon to really move up this list, because a slower game where a running back is on the road and an underdog is usually not a good sign for outperforming your fantasy projection. So this is where I've got Saquon. I can't possibly move him up anymore, even though I have some trepidation about Harris and Swift in front of him. Take a second, drop a like on the video. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. This is the new fantasy football channel that we just made. Our main channel is over 50,000 subs and is mostly focused on daily fantasy content. That's where most people know me from. But we're building this channel around season long and best ball information. So if you like it, boop the snoot on that like button, subscribe, ring the notifications bell, because I'm going to have like 5 or 6 videos coming out all football season long, including bonus content in the off season to take us all the way to the 2023 season. So thank you guys for being here. Moving on to number 13, James Conner. This is a weird spot. When I'm recording this video, it was just reported that 2 things happened. Rondale Moore left practice with a hamstring injury. That's not great, especially in the absence of DeAndre Hopkins, who's out for the first 6 weeks of the season with a suspension. And Zach Ertz didn't practice again on Thursday. Wednesday practice reports, specifically for veterans, when they skip a practice on Wednesday, I don't get really concerned with any of that. But like now he's missed 2 practices in a row. If they don't have anywhere else to go with it, James Conner could outperform this 13 spot that I have him in. Because if he now, instead of getting 4 targets or 5 targets with the work that he's going to get, although they are at home, they are underdogs in this game, he might get upwards of 6 or 7 targets because there's nobody else to throw to, and they're going to have to change their game plan in the case that Ertz and Moore are out for this week. Monitor this situation as the week goes on. I have him at 13. Number 14, second-year running back Javonte Williams from the Denver Broncos. I would love to have Javonte. On talent, he's like 6 or 7 for me. On situation, because of Melvin Gordon III and his presence and the fact that it looks like a 55-45 split in the favor of Javonte Williams, even against an overmatched opponent like the Seattle Seahawks, even in a Russ Wilson revenge game, I can't put him any higher. I need him to get 70+% of the running back snaps and touches, and he's just not going to get that where he's at. So here he is at 14 for me. Behind him is a player who previously was not going to be on this list. Unfortunately, some off the field stuff happened with Brian Robinson Jr., who might have been in this spot. So Antonio Gibson is my number 15 running back for week 1. Last year, he was the RB10 on volume. Sometimes just being an accumulator can help you out. And if he's on the field, he's going to project to get you 20 touches. Now, he's not going to get the long down and distance. He's not going to get as many targets because of the presence of J.D. McKissic. Even though he is a plus pass catcher, they just don't utilize him in that way. But if Washington can move the football and they can get inside the 5, you know that he's got touchdown upside here. Don't mind him at all in this spot. At 16, Ezekiel Elliott slides in here right after Antonio Gibson. Now, on role and on position and on talent and on usage, I like Ezekiel Elliott more than somebody like Antonio Gibson. However, you don't play running backs against the Buccaneers. You just don't do it. So where Ezekiel Elliott might be higher than that on a normal week, he's down a few spots because of the matchup here against Tampa Bay. He slides in at 16. At 17, David Montgomery. Now, look, nobody wanted to draft David Montgomery, but this is just kind of where he fits. The volume is undeniable. The defense they're playing against with San Francisco is rough. Now, if they play from behind, as they are projected to do, then San Francisco is going to bleed the clock. They're not going to snap it until there's 2 seconds left. They're going to run it 40 or 50 times on the day. And David Montgomery is not going to reach very much upside at all, though he will get volume included in the passing game. Now, if Chicago can capitalize on possibly mistakes, if Trey Lance throws an interception, if Trey Lance fumbles the football, if the defense gets some sort of turnover, they return a kick where they're playing from ahead and competitive in this game, now David Montgomery's got some upside at this number 17 spot. And that kind of reminds me of the next player, Nick Chubb at 18. Actually has a pretty good matchup against Carolina. However, they are on the road, and this is not an offense that I want to buy into. They are going to play slow. They are going to play sloggy, but he is not going to get that 70% plus of the running back snaps and touches as long as Kareem Hunt is still in town. That's just not how they're going to utilize him. We would love to see Nick Chubb get you 22 carries and 4 targets. Unfortunately, that's not what they do with him, especially in games that they are going to lose. And I'm not saying they're going to lose, but they are 2.5, 3-point underdogs in this game in Carolina. So if they are playing from behind, Chubb kind of gets game scripted out of any game like that. So there's a wide variance between his floor and his ceiling possibility. So Chubb is a little bit more dangerous. I have him at 18 because of ceiling and because of upside. And I have him ahead of a player that I think has a little bit better floor than him, even though I think Chubb has a higher ceiling. That player at 19 for me is second-year running back Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, James Robinson is back. He is not back 100%, which leads me to believe that we're going to see Travis Etienne get a kind of a heavy dose here in week 1. Like, he's going to get that 70% of snaps and touches and is going to get a lot of usage in the passing game coming from second-year quarterback Trevor Lawrence. So the high target share, the fact that he should see no less than 4 targets and possibly 6 or 7 in this game, I think he has a higher floor than Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb, one of the best at breakaway, at big splash touchdowns. His ceiling higher than Etienne's for me. His touchdown expectation higher than Etienne's for me. And that's why I have him behind him. So if you're dealing with a Nick Chubb or Etienne start-sit question, if you're going for ceiling, if you feel like you're an underdog in your game, go for the higher ceiling play. If you're playing from ahead, obviously you could play Travis Etienne in that spot. Elijah Mitchell right behind them at 20. Questions about whether they're going to still use him in the passing game because they may not throw the ball as much. This may be a team that throws it 20 times a game with Trey Lance at quarterback and they just try to run it. There's value in the sense that they're going to run the football and possibly playing from ahead, which leads to more second half usage. There's also value in the fact that they have a high team total and will every week, because this is going to be a team that relies on defense and running the football. But we have to worry about, is Trey Lance ready, and is he the guy that's going to deliver the ball to him through the air? And I'm not sold on that yet. So there's a very Nick Chubb feel to Elijah at this spot, where he may not get any targets or just maybe 1 target in a lot of games this year. Now, if he does what he did at the end of last season and get you 3, 4, 5 targets a game, I'm in. I love Elijah Mitchell, but right now I can't count on that. So we got 4 players to go on the list. I wanted to take a second and let you guys know that we are doing a fundraiser again this year for No Kid Hungry. You can go to that smizzle.tv/links or directly through smizzle.tv/charity if you wanted to donate even $1. Every single dollar helps. It goes through Tiltify. Anything you donate is 100% tax deductible. We spend our time playing these silly games like fantasy football and daily fantasy football and sports betting and everything else that we do. It's nice to give back. And they provide school lunches and school breakfast to food insecure kids across the United States. So take a second, be a part of something that's bigger for yourself as we try to raise $100,000 together as a community. I will match personally, for every $10,000 that our community raises, I will match $10,000 up to 50, which would bring us to a total of 100,000 on the season. That is the goal. Help us get there. I appreciate you guys. Let's get back to the top 24. We're going to round this out, and I'll do it quickly for you. Miles Sanders is my number 21. I know he scored no touchdowns last year. That cannot sustain, 1, with the amount of volume that he gets, and 2, with how good this offense is going to be. He's going to get off the schneid. I got him projected on the season for like 7.5 touchdowns. We'll see if he gets to that point. I think that he is going to. This offense for the Eagles is greatly improved from where it was last year. Jalen Hurts with a full year under center and a full offseason as the starting quarterback. They added A.J. Brown, which will help his efficiency. And while you say, well, that's going to take away opportunities from Miles Sanders, it doesn't. That's going to help them get into the red zone and inside the 5-yard line, where he can really do the most damage and hopefully get himself into the end zone more than 0 times this year. Number 22, Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders. He's sliding into this spot. Nobody liked drafting him. He was in the running back dead zone. Usually you were not drafting in there because wide receivers have proven over time to have more upside when being drafted from rounds 4 through 6. He slid into that ADP. The team is not committed to him long term, but in week 1, he should still get a ton of volume in a running game that, with McDaniels coming from New England, is going to use a 3-headed monster. They've got Abdullah for probably some pass game work. The rookie Zamir White is cemented now into that 3rd role, maybe the backup running back role for 1st and 2nd down when Jacobs needs a breather. But Jacobs is still the primary guy and should be the primary guy once they get in close. He's at 22 in Los Angeles. Number 23 is Devin Singletary, also in Los Angeles at SoFi this week, playing on Thursday night against the Los Angeles Rams. I know there's been a lot of column inches spent on the rookie Cook from Georgia going to the Bills, but I think that Devin Singletary is still going to be 65% of the usage as he is the trusted back early in the season. He slides in at 23. And squaring everything up, my number 24 running back, Mr. Relevant. He's not irrelevant. He's going to start for your fantasy teams is Chase Edmonds. There's no way that I'm going to project 20 plus touches from Chase Edmonds, but 10 carries and like 5 or 6 targets is more than enough to have a nice floor with ceiling and upside in a much more talented offense this year in 2022. That's my top 24 running backs. Like it, subscribe, hit that heart, leave me a comment down below with who you're starting and sitting. Good luck this weekend. Bye.
He's a legend.